Cool.
Got it.
We're now live.
Great. So
So
exciting.
don't sound too excited though.
No, of
Good
course.
morning, afternoon, good evening, everyone, depending on where you're joining us
Wherever
from.
you are.
Yeah. So my name's Paul, and I'm joined today by Laura.
Hey guys.
And we're going to be, looking at, why Ezoic and some differentiation between what we do and what other sort of people in the same or similar sphere do to us today. What we're going to do is just let people filter in. I can see that the participant numbers going up, so we're not going to start just yet. So if you want to go grab a drink, we'll kick off at 5 past, so you've got time to go get yourself sorted beforehand. In the interim, it's always great to hear where you're joining us from. So let us know in the chat where you are in the world today. I'm London based today, so our office is now back up and running. So it's nice to not be sat in my spare room all the time. So I'm back in there today, and Laura is over in Dubai.
Yeah, I am. So miles away from Paul. But yeah, we're different time zones, but we're making it work. And obviously, let us know where you guys are. We'd love to hear. California.
Very keen, Gerald. Serbia, India, Italy, very nice. These places
Wow.
all can't be as depressingly grey as London is today. We had like a week of summer this year, and that's it. So, do
you think you might get some more coming back, or are you done for the year?
We're done. We're done for the year. We had a week of horrible heat, and then that was it. So, from the Netherlands, very nice.
Nice. A couple of other people in the UK as well. Oh, it's sunny in Lancashire, Paul. There you go. That's where you need to be.
Yeah, it's probably just the smog in London. It's not clouds. It's just the smog from Kuwait. Excellent. Nice to see some different places.
Nice to see you here. Hakam's one of my publishers that we've been working together.
Oh, nice. So just while we're waiting for a few more people, the format we're going to go through today is Laura is going to be giving the presentation. I'm here just to hop on and answer some questions at the end. So going to hand over to Laura. We're going to run through the presentation. If you do have questions that come up during, please put them in the Q&A. We're going to have about half an hour, 20 minutes at the end to go through the questions. So we will get around to you, don't worry. But we have allocated loads of time at the end to make sure that we get back to you. So presentation first, questions after. So I hope that's okay.
Sounds good. Good plan.
Cool. So give it
just a quick note as well that sorry, Paul, spoke at the same time. I was just going to say it's being recorded. So yeah, this will be shareable after. So if there's stuff you want to go back to at any point, it will be available. Be able to get it sent out to you guys as well, which is cool. I'm going to get started with putting these slides up, so we're ready to go in a minute or so.
Sounds good. That's good. Yeah, the number of attendees is still creeping up, but I think by 5 past we're good to go.
Yeah. Hopefully you guys can see my screen now as well.
I can see it on my end.
Yeah, the recording will be up, don't worry.
Yes, we normally what we do is we upload it to our YouTube channel, which is the weekly walkthrough channel, which I can share with you guys in the chat function. Normally it takes us a little bit of time to turn it around, but we try and attach the slides as well, so you get access to everything that we go through today. So don't worry about that. Hang on, let me just share it now. So that's the link to our channel, which has lots of other webinars on. But today is all about this webinar. So on that note, I'm going to go ahead and mute myself and hand you over to Laura.
Amazing. Thanks, Paul, and for helping me get everything set up. Hopefully you guys can see my slides now. If you can't, please alert me in the chat because I will be blind to know whether you are or not. So yeah, welcome to this Ezoic webinar this Thursday. This is the first time I've actually hosted an Ezoic webinar, so it's an exciting time for me to try this out. I've seen a few publishers of mine that I've been working with are in the chat there, so it's nice to see you guys joining as well. So on we go. So the reason that I wanted to talk about today, the benefits of machine learning and artificial intelligence, is really to see sort of why Ezoic stands out in the industry and how we do that. So we're going to be running through what makes Ezoic so unique, really, and the benefits of using the Ezoic system from sort of a competitive advantage point of view. So a little bit about myself. My name's Laura. I've been working at Ezoic for coming up to 3.5 years in total now, as a business development manager. So my role is extremely publisher facing. So within that, I've worked alongside thousands of publishers through Ezoic's support interface, as well as one-on-one work with a lot of publishers on their websites and portfolios as well. As an individual, I would say I'm very naturally curious. I'm very passionate about digital, which makes me fit in at Ezoic quite well. I get excited about things changing and innovating, which really makes Ezoic and myself a great partnership. At the bottom there, I've dropped some of my social media profiles. If any of you want to drop me a follow or a message on there after relating to anything about Ezoic or the presentation, please do. I'd be happy to help. So looking at today's agenda, we're going to run through these sort of broad categories here, which is, as a high-level overview, what even is AI and machine learning, how Ezoic fits into this category as a technology solution, really how the control remains with yourself as the publisher at Ezoic. And we're also going to be looking at Ezoic's reporting features and how all of this is implemented. And then we'll go through with a summary at the end as well. So as we get started, when I was creating this slide, I was really looking for something to sort of, this was a quote taken directly from Ezoic's website. I was looking for something to sort of summarize who we are. And when I say we, I mean the people behind Ezoic. The first thing that makes Ezoic so unique, in my opinion, is that at Ezoic, we're all committed to personalization in terms of publisher relationships, relationship management, as well as internally when we're working with our peers. We're all unique when we work at Ezoic. We all have different interests and we're all different in our own way. But the one thing that ties us together is the fact that at Ezoic, we are passionate about building a better web. And our first priority is publishers and spending every moment of the day working on the Ezoic platform to help us help you, essentially, and improve publishers' digital properties. So that's really why I've put that slide in here. So moving on to what exactly is machine learning and AI. So artificial intelligence can be defined very broadly as using machines to create, calculate, and output intellect. And then sort of as a subcategory of AI, if you like, is machine learning, which is essentially using computers, which then use algorithms to make enhancements. In Ezoic's case, these enhancements will be better user experiences, which again is achieved through personalization. You'll hear me mention this word quite a lot, personalization, throughout this presentation, but it's really at the core of what Ezoic does. Like I said, from the relationships we manage all the way through to the actual platform itself. It's truly what makes Ezoic unique and definitely gives us that competitive edge in the industry. So how does Ezoic fit into this as a technology solution? So static ads are a thing of the past. Now, that's a very broad statement. So what I really wanted to say here is what exactly is a static ad setup. So that's basically where, you go to a website and the ads remain in the same locations across the same sort of similar pages. So every content page has a sidebar, a top of page and a bottom of page ad. They don't change, whether it's on different browsers or different users. They remain as they are throughout 100% of scenarios. So I've put in a little example here to give you sort of a real life, what we can all, hopefully you can all relate to at least one of these, is imagine the old school sort of blockbuster way of picking a DVD for your Friday movie night versus Netflix. Paper menus. I remember having a drawer in my family house when I was younger of like 30 menus of different restaurants, and we would just filter through them whenever we wanted to order a takeaway versus like Deliveroo or Uber Eats. And then you've got things like, your Walkmans, your iPod Nanos, to Apple Music, Spotify. The key thing to note here in all of these examples is that all of these newer sort of futuristic, if you like, developments are personalization platforms too in their own way, which is what makes them so successful and the reason people keep using them. If you watch a lot of true crime dramas on Netflix, it's going to pump this back into its algorithm and suggest more shows like this for you to watch. Deliveroo will pop up with a notification letting you know new restaurants in your area that it thinks you might like. And I don't know if anyone's seen, but one of the coolest features I think on Spotify is that it does like the yearly wrap up of how your music taste looked that year, what you listened to the most, which artist. And the reason they're doing this is because we all want personalization. We're becoming, as a population, I would say, more particular with our browsing behaviors. And this is because more elements are getting introduced into the hemisphere of technology. Therefore, it should not be a one size fits all approach. And this is where Ezoic comes in. So the example to sort of overlay Ezoic here would be static ad setups versus Ezoic. Now, that may seem like a total generalization, so let's go into a bit more detail of exactly what I mean by that. So if we move on to the next slide, I would like to introduce you to poodlesinfo.com. Now, here we have, let's say, the basic setup of poodlesinfo.com. There is, as you can see there, the top of page leaderboard and the anchor ad, which I've highlighted there with the arrows. This is being served and tested to 100% of users. Let's say the owner of the website says, okay, great. So the revenue was this, the bounce rate was this for these specific when these ad setups were in place. They worked out, okay, 40% of users were satisfied based on this, based on there being a threshold of bounce rate or whatever it may be in terms of UX they're looking to meet. Then the webmaster goes on and says, okay, now we're going to test removing the leaderboard and the anchor ad, and we're going to go with the top of page sidebar on its own. That didn't perform as great. So 15% of users were satisfied with that setup. So what you've just seen me do here is an A/B test. That's how I would say most publishers have been operating for a long time. The issue here with A/B testing is it doesn't account for things like seasonality, global ad rates, where the user's based geographically, what device they're on. It's a blanket approach. Yes, this ad setup might perform better in August than January, but you may get more visits in August than January. So it's really difficult as a publisher to manage. And a lot of publishers have been left in their own sort of, out in the sticks, sort of like doing the A/B testing and sort of getting nowhere because things are changing so rapidly. Now, the problem with A/B testing is it doesn't take into account all of the factors that influence a user's behavior on a site. So you've just seen the example A benefited 40% of users, example B benefit 15% of users. So what about the remaining 45% of users? If you went to a restaurant and then decided to leave a TripAdvisor review of 5.5 rating out of 10, you probably wouldn't be going back to that restaurant in a hurry. So why would a user coming back to your site if you're only satisfying 50%, 55% of your users? These are really the variables here that Ezoic tests on a daily basis. Every minute, every second, these tests are actively happening on websites right now. So I'm actually going to read through every single one of these so that you can get the feel for exactly how much testing is going on. So users do behave differently based on the ad types that are being shown on the site, the locations which the ads are, the sizes that are being shown to them, how quickly the page is loading, which device they're using, as well as, what browser that they're using as well, time of day, day of the week, what their connection's like. Is it, are they connected to 5G versus 3G? Where are they based in the world? Where they came from? Did they come from a Google search? Did they come from the fact that you posted a link on your Facebook page? UX metrics from other users visiting the site, because these things get fed back to Google and into algorithms, whether they are a subscriber or a return visitor or not, and many, many more that I could sit here and go through. But these are a lot of variables that are being tested at any given time. Now, surely I'm not the only one that feels a little bit stressed when looking at that amount of information at once. And personally, he wouldn't have a clue as an individual or even in a small team of how to compare these one by one, let alone in conjunction with one another. I personally know of no other technology partner in the industry who is actively testing these variables in such detail at all times. The best thing about Ezoic is it's working whilst you sleep. It's making you money, working to improve your site's overall website health. So I pretty much think that this slide alone indicates exactly how intricate Ezoic's brain is. Before Ezoic it was introduced, it would have been near enough impossible to test all of these things at once without some form of machine learning or AI. And that's really where Ezoic has made the impossible possible. An example that I like to give is if we imagine somebody runs a website that is sort of driving theory related to taking your driving exam, and say somebody is sat on a desktop computer because they're actually studying for their driving theory test. They're scrolling very slowly through each page. They're really thoroughly engaged with the content. They view 5 pages. They've been on the site for 25 minutes. Versus somebody, say I'm on a mobile and connected via 4G connection. I pull up on the side of the road and I Google, what does a double yellow line mean? Can I park here? And we both of those 2 users are on the same site, potentially on the same page, but should receive a completely different ad experience, because the situation where I'm on my mobile, I'm looking for a very, very quick answer. I want to know if I can park here or not. If the website doesn't provide that quick enough, if the ads loading in the background is causing too much disruption, I'm likely to bounce and not return. This is then fed back to Google. Whereas the user that's on desktop and scrolling slowly, has a very strong Wi-Fi connection, is likely to see more ads. They're viewing more pages. The Ezoic system's thinking, okay, look, this user's not bouncing. Let's try another ad on this page. Let's try a larger location potentially, or various elements on the site that are being tested. But the key thing to note here is that these 2 users should not be treated the same. And by doing so is leaving a lot of revenue on the table. So moving on from and sort of deeper into that really actually is another benefit of Ezoic. So yes, we have this phenomenal technology, but all of the control remains with you as the publisher. You're included throughout the entire setup journey, from choosing the ad placements you want to test, so the sizes within the ad placements. So for example, on this GIF here that you can see on the screen now, we've got a sidebar placement. Within the sidebar placement, there's over 7 different sizes I can see there that are being tested. You've got the top of page ad, and within the top of page ad, there's a load of different sizes that you can test. You can see me changing them there. So this is telling the system, okay, an ad could go here and you could test this size in conjunction with the sidebar and this size. So that's an example of exactly how ad placements are chosen on the site via a simple Chrome extension. Why is this unique? Well, this is unique because you as the publisher are in entire control of this. You download the Chrome extension, you set these ad placements. This is not a blanket approach for a one size to fit all. It's as it should be, customized on a site-by-site basis, down to how much padding you're going to put on the ad, down to the category of the site you want to test this ad in. This then automatically gets replicated entirely across your site. honestly, this stuff is like way more intelligent than I could ever imagine doing on my own. And I have a pretty good grasp of the online advertising ecosystem. So it's pretty cool. And it's very intelligent. And what I like to say to a lot of publishers that I work with is imagine that each and every option you're giving the system is essentially your ticket to one more happy visitor, because you don't know what your visitor's like. They probably don't eat the same pizza as you, so they probably don't like the same ad setup as you, or the same Netflix documentaries, or the same artists. We're all unique and we should be treated that way. So as well as the ad placements, it doesn't stop there with your control. One of the industry old classics is like publishers trying to best determine how to balance ad revenue versus user experience, but it shouldn't have to be like a decision between one or the other, or how should I balance this? You tell Ezoic what you want it to focus on, it will do just that. So this screenshot here is exactly how it looks in the Ezoic dashboard. In the interface, you can adjust the settings via the green toggle there, whether you want the system to be more revenue focused or more user experience focused, and the system will adjust based on that percentage of how much effort it gives to the corresponding element that you've chosen. Essentially, you ask the system to jump, and Ezoic says how high. It's extremely customizable. Another example of that is through the apps. Like I say, apps for days. This is just like a handful of examples here. But obviously we have the ad tester app, which I've gone through just briefly before, which covers, all the different sizes you can test, and that's your ad locations. That's your moneymaker, your ad tester. You've got Ezoic's cloud caching app. So you want to set specific caching rules for certain pages, you can do that. If you don't want Ezoic to cache certain pages, tell it that and it won't. It's what I'm trying to say here is, like, without sounding too sort of running through things one by one, it's very like every element of your site can be customized to exactly how you want it. The ad categories app, if you own a recipe blog and you don't want any sort of recipe sites or any other thing related to food related to be advertising a site, then you can block that ad category. We have Ezoic's direct ad orders app. So for publishers that strike any direct deals, you can pop those into that app there, and Ezoic will respect any sort of parameters you give it. Ezoic's SEO tag tester app is one of the more latest additions to this, which essentially allows you to try and optimize different page titles for URLs on your website. And that, again, uses artificial intelligence and boils down to personalization, which, the SEO tag tester makes it very easy to test which titles get indexed in search engines and promotes more traffic to your content. So really, these are just a handful of examples of how Ezoic's so customizable. If you're not currently able to control your ad placements or numbers per page or optimization settings, then frankly, I do believe you're being left in the dark, seeing as there's not many other technology platforms that do allow you to test all of these things at once. No matter what setup you have, Ezoic is fully compatible and ready to get going. So yeah, that's what I'm saying is customize, and customize some more. Another element that makes Ezoic so unique is Ezoic's reporting features. Those of you who have had some time to explore Ezoic already will have heard the buzz phrase Ezoic's big data analytics. The best way I can describe this is to imagine any current analytics platform you're using that's not big data analytics, and imagine that in 10 times more detail. That's really how big data analytics works. Our existing publishers, from my experience and some of my colleagues' experiences, publishers are using big data analytics right now to improve things like SEO, understand the value of their content. You can write a post, hit publish, and a week later be looking at exactly how those users that saw that post engaged with it. You can see things like which writers and authors are impacting the bottom line the most, and get insights into exactly how users are engaging with your website. So the best way that I wanted to roll with this was to give you a scenario. Now, a short disclaimer, this is an example that I've made up for the benefit of the presentation. It's not based on a real publisher, obviously for data protection, but I have seen this happen hundreds of times. So Imagine this scenario. We have Amy, who is a publisher, and she runs a product release blog. So she's writing long and in-depth articles with a margin of between 5,000 to 8,000 words in length about various topics, from the latest iPhone to CCTV cameras. She has a gut feeling this is what her users like most. Maybe she had a couple of users email her and say they loved the longer articles. So she was like, okay, great, let's produce more of that. So that's where Amy's head was at with that. So she thought this was the best option in terms of user experience and ad revenue. So for the next 4 weeks, Amy was writing these really long, in-depth articles to change up her content strategy. Then Ezoic and Amy meet, and that's when Amy decides to start using Ezoic's big data analytics, which immediately gets to work. And Amy pulls up a report on exactly looking at ad revenue by the word count. This is a report that I believe is only done by Ezoic. So if you haven't seen it before, this is one of my favorite reports to pull with my publishers. It's very interesting. So as you can see here, plot twist, Amy is actually earning more ad revenue, as you can see from the bar chart there, from articles that are 1,000 to 2,500 words in length. Immediately she realizes, okay, maybe I need to adapt my content strategy, but let's look a bit deeper. Let's pull another report on engaged page views by word count. So looking at engaged page views is basically a way of tracking the number of engaged page views throughout a user session. An engaged page view, for those of you who don't know, is essentially a page view where the user spent at least 10 seconds engaged to a page. So yeah, Amy runs this report, and as you can see, again, is a common theme here. Articles that are 1,000 to 2,500 words in length are producing more engaged page views. So this is an immediate light bulb moment, I believe, where you think, okay, right, I need to start adapting my content strategy. So that's exactly what she does. Immediately begin writing more content that falls between these 1,000 to 2,500 words, as we've seen from big data analytics reporting, to earning the most ad revenue and leading to better UX metrics. That way, Amy is then actively personalizing her content towards her users. So the difference here is how Ezoic's platform analytics has given Amy the ability to personalize her content towards her users. So not only is she using Ezoic to personalize where the ads are, what sizes are showing, in what combination, she's also, and this is done via Ezoic's AI, but the AI is then also feeding back to Amy the data that she needs to then personalize her content strategy too. Also, whilst she has an entire control over the site setup with Ezoic. So naturally, by doing this, Amy's traffic grows, users are having a better experience, Google's algorithm picks up on this, and the search engine results for her site improve, and more traffic feeds through to the site. So more traffic then allows Ezoic's AI to do even more testing and become even more accurate, so that over time, her user experience, traffic, and ad revenue are all growing at the same time. That's what really makes Ezoic stand out and different, is Ezoic is personalization at the core, and we believe that personalizing on every level and through every element of your website, this automatically takes care of the overall website management. The system never sleeps, so it's always working to improve towards statistical confidence, and that's why Ezoic publishers continuously see ad revenue growth rather than a static ad revenue where you can predict what you're going to make most months of the year based on seasonality. Ezoic's is more of a trend that continues to grow, because the system is always trying to work and improve upon what it already has. But it doesn't stop there with Ezoic's reporting. That was obviously a small sort of example, but there are so many reports you can pull that this webinar slot wouldn't be enough time for me to go through it. But the things that I like the most I've put in here, which is you can link your Ezoic, your Search Console, your Google Search Console to Ezoic, and pull reports on things like revenue by search query or bounce rate by keyword, things like that, and engage visits based on category. It's your key to content management, essentially. I threw this one in here just for the fun of it, really, because this is one of my favorite reports that Ezoic pulls. I just think it's really cool that we're able to report on any sort of UX metrics based on the weather outside. So this is an example of number of visits based on the weather outside. So on clear skies, when the skies were clear for this particular website, the website was seeing more visits. So yeah, that was pretty cool. I have nothing else to say about this slide other than the fact that that's just my favorite feature that Ezoic has. So moving on to sort of the final look at how Ezoic does all of this. So you're probably thinking that's a lot of detail that's going into the system and that the system's giving back to the publisher yourselves. So how is it done? So Ezoic, this is all done via Ezoic's cloud. That's how it's implemented. This essentially is a server-to-server connection. And this is exactly what enables Ezoic to do personalization on such a granular level. This stuff would be physically impossible to do without something as simple as a JavaScript code, which I know a lot of players in the industry are using. But here at Ezoic, we see that as a thing of the past. And to get these personalizations so detailed, we have the benefit of Ezoic's cloud to help with that. If you are using JavaScript or, you're not able to see in such detailed data, the question really then to ask yourself is, are you going to be getting what you want from a technology that's built on JavaScript? Probably not. If you're looking for everything that I've mentioned so far, if that all sounds good to you, then you're going to need some more robust implementation methods. And by doing that would be via Ezoic's cloud. So the cloud is what also makes the sites super fast and was built to serve your pages on lightning speed as well, which is all done via server side. Not only is Ezoic unique for the fact that the cloud provides such detailed reporting and features to improve things like core web vitals, but the edge here, which I think is actually unknown quite a lot, I don't think we talk about it enough really, is the security and safety benefits that come with connecting to Ezoic's cloud, which offers you protection from hackers, fraudsters, and bots powered by Ezoic's IntelliProtect, which ensures safety from modern attacks. If you aren't using Ezoic right now, you're probably using handfuls of plugins to do these features. But with Ezoic, there's no need. We have you covered with this stuff. So let's face it, anything that provides significant improvements or revolutionary functionality should be done via cloud or server level integrations. When I say server level integrations, you may have heard, if you've done a bit of research into Ezoic, name server integration or cloud integration, or also Cloudflare integration. So name server or cloud integration is essentially where you flip your name servers over to point to Ezoic's, and that allows Ezoic to sit in between your users and your host, as you saw here in the previous slide. And they are like reversible at any point. Like it's what allows Ezoic to collect such granular data and report on such detailed levels. Cloudflare integration, if you're a member of Cloudflare currently, Ezoic's actually a Cloudflare has a Cloudflare app in the Ezoic dashboard where you log in with your Cloudflare deets, and from there we will connect directly to your Cloudflare. Again, you're the same thing happens here. Ezoic sits in between your users and your host, and obviously Cloudflare's in there between as well. So I think we're on to a summary now. This has been quite a quick presentation. Forgive me, I'm always told that I speak very fast, so I'm very sorry, but the recording will be available. I've tried my best to slow it down, though I know I can be quite a fast talker. But in summary, at Ezoic, from the ground up, from the people that work here, myself, Paul, and everybody else, we have a passion for personalization. And the AI and machine learning built from Ezoic is what gives us the ability to give such a detailed level of personalization, and really what gives Ezoic that competitive edge to all the noise in the industry. There's a lot of noise in the industry at the moment. There always will be, especially as things develop and new things get released. It's difficult to know where to focus your energy. Ezoic takes care of that for you by showing you the data where you want to see it in a very digestible format, so that you can focus on the things that are important, like content generation and, you know, looking at the hotspots of your site and where your users are. You know, static ads are a thing of the past. A blanket approach to your website and a one size fits all is a thing of the past. In my opinion, if you're using a static ad setup, then you're actively leaving money on the table, because you're not personalizing towards every user. Ezoic is more than an A/B test. It's multivariate testing. It's not just testing, oh, this ad versus this ad. It's also testing the sizes within that ad, the device that the user's on, the connection strength, as we went through. So this is testing like so many things at once, multiple things at once. So again, that one of the key elements of Ezoic is, and the key sort of unique factors that I think is, you retain full control over every element of the setup, from the minute you sign up to the Ezoic interface to the minute your site goes live, and managing it after it's live. You're in full control. At no point does Ezoic say, oh, we're gonna, you know, serve this ad setup because we found it works for 70% of users. No, it's not how it works. You tell Ezoic what you want it to test, we'll test it, and the system will give you the data. Yeah, once, you know, everything's implemented, Ezoic big data analytics will help guide your site's strategy and lead to improvements in user experience, traffic, and ad revenue. And finally, all of this as a bundle is made possible by Ezoic server-to-server connection, which is cutting edge and not available amongst a lot of other tech platforms. Such server-to-server connection brings a whole host of benefits, you know, from the granular data all the way through to improvements in site speed and improving core web vitals. That's another rabbit hole that I could fall down at some point as well. So if you take just one thing away from today, it would be, make sure that every decision on your website is an intelligent one. Every aspect of your website shouldn't be a trial and error until you find what's right, and then it changes suddenly because user habits change. It should be based on real hard scientific data. Ezoic does this for you and presents it to you in a way that is easy to understand and comprehend. If you're not yet part of Ezoic's community and you're in this webinar, feel free to have a browse on our site. There's a load of information, more detail about what I've talked about. And yeah, we would love for everyone to sort of become part of our community of forward-thinking publishers, because we're very passionate about it. So yeah, that's the conclusion to my presentation today. I think we're going to move to a Q&A, Paul, right?
Yeah, that's right. So before we do that, thank you very much for going through that. I thought it was really interesting. I'm also a big fan of the weather report, and
yeah, I love it. It's my
it's so cool to see that we have that level of detail. I know a couple of sites that, you know, DIY sites that see spikes in traffic when it's overcast because people are like, oh, I'm stuck inside. What can I do? So those little insights that actually give you a better understanding of visitors, to me, is a competitive advantage. And you know, not making the most of that is, like you said so many times throughout this webinar, it's just leaving money on the table.
Yeah, completely.
So we have a couple of questions that are coming in. So let's make a start with them. So I'll let you answer this one, Laura. So does Ezoic test different amounts of ads as well? So the numbers on the page.
Yeah, it does. So basically, when you set up your advertisements on the site, you use Ezoic's Chrome extension, which I went through in one of the slides. See if I can pull it back up. And what that does is allows you to select as many different locations on the page as you like. So you can see it here in this GIF. That's where I'm adding a sidebar. Underneath that, you could do another sidebar, content all the way through the content. You know, put in as many of these as you want, and Ezoic will then test how many ads should benefit each user in any sort of given scenario. So yeah, that's included in the testing as well.
Yeah, no, that's spot on. And I think one of the things that I often see people sort of not truly grasp is that just because there's a placeholder doesn't mean an ad will show. These are all potential locations where an ad can show. But you know, if the system detects that actually it's not the right session, not the right part of a session, not the right user, not the right upstream source to put ads in a certain location, it won't. So when it comes around to it, I always recommend to the publishers that I work with is, put as many different potential locations on as possible.
Yeah.
Put them in weird places, and the system will make decisions that a human wouldn't think to try, but could have positive benefits for you. So
Definitely. It's a really good point, Paul. And also, just to add to that, we've actually seen before in cases that showing no ads on the page at all has sometimes led to higher revenue long term and better user experience metrics. I did post this, it's a whole article on this, actually. It was really interesting. I posted it on my LinkedIn and Twitter page, so if anyone wants to check that out, it's on there on the Ezoic blog as well. So yeah, you never know how many ad placements you're going to see when you visit a site that's run by Ezoic. It's all done by the AI.
yeah, so I on 2 points, I shared your LinkedIn details in the chat, so everyone can directly
cool.
access them, so they don't have to sort of wait for the slides to come through. And another one is for those who are premium publishers. If you go down to the yield reporting, there's actually a report that tells you the ads per page, so you can go and see how often different numbers are selected. So again, you've got full visibility over the selections and choices that are being made there. The next question. In optimization goals for a better EPMV, do you recommend revenue focused or custom at 100% revenue focused? So, with I guess when you're setting sites up, Laura, how do you recommend people approach the optimization goals setting?
Yeah, really, really good question. My recommendation, by default, the system will be set to balance, and my recommendation would be to keep it at that for the initial testing period. Obviously, it depends how long it takes to reach that sort of statistical confidence mark, depending on how big the site is and how much traffic it's receiving. But the balanced approach will give 50-50 energy towards ad rev and user experience. So my recommendation initially would to be keep it balanced whilst the Ezoic system is working its data. And then I would speak directly with your Ezoic sales rep after that and ask them what they think. If you're thinking of changing it, they'll be able to advise you for your specific site. But my general advice would be, if you do have a desire towards having better user experience metrics, and that's the most important thing for your site and yourself, then absolutely toggle it across. The best thing about this is you can change it at any point. If you want to test it as revenue focused for a month and then UX focused, then back to balance, you can do that. So there's no sort of one size fits all approach to this. It's test it and see.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like, how will it perform? I sometimes get asked, if I change this to this percentage and this to this percentage, what are my results going to be? And it's like, well, for your site, generally, I don't know. But the controls are there. One thing that I do sometimes, one thing I do recommend is for the sort of November, December-ish Q4 run is to maybe nudge it slightly more revenue focused. It's a time of year when ad rates are significantly higher, and it's just about capitalizing on that opportunity. So my advice is, at this time of year, we're still in a bit of a lull for ad rates. Play around with it. Move it to revenue focused, and then come back and have a look at some metrics. What's happened to your bounce rate? What's happened to the average page views per session? What's happened to the page engagement rates? Have you seen any major changes or discrepancies there? That'll give you a good indication of what's happening. So like I said, all the data that you need to make these decisions is available in big data analytics. Test it and see what happens, I think would be there. The next question that's come in is asking, can we put some light on the video placeholder feature? Would be great. So could you possibly just explain a little bit or expand on that question? Just to know if you're asking for the contrast to be changed, or if you would like us to sort of shed some more light and explain it a little bit more. That would be great if we could just get just a touch more information on that question. The next one. I love all the options and having control, but the only ad you don't seem to have control over is the ad at the bottom. Is there any way to get rid of that one? I'm going to take this one, Laura, if that's okay, because I think this relates very closely to what to Laura's example. So if we think back to, I believe your fictional publisher was Amy, who had an idea about the way that her site performed and made decisions based on the assumption that it was a bad ad to have on the page, or in this example, but for her, it was about the content length. I see this very often with ad locations. So people saying, I want to get rid of this one because I think it's bad for my user experience. And the keyword being there being think, that there's no sort of understanding of how users are actually interacting with it. I will preface at the start that yes, you can turn off the bottom floating ad. It's available in the monetization dashboard. Anchor ads, you can toggle on and off. Anchor ads across all platforms, we see on average increase EPMV by about 30%. So by turning off a location like that, highly viewable location, it's a case of saying I'm willing to earn 30% less based on my personal preference. I'm looking at a site now. I've got their big data in front of me, and in the last week, 21% of their revenue has come from just having that ad floating on the page. It's one of those things where it's industry standard. There's very few sites that you'll go to where you won't see an anchor ad now. So from a user experience perspective, people are conditioned to see it. And for something that people are conditioned to seeing and accepting, deciding to turn it off, as I said, leaves money on the table. But the control is there. You can turn it off if that's your preference. But I would say, you won't see any noticeable improvements in metrics apart from a decline in the revenue that's generated. So I would caution against making changes. But if you are on premium and you can go into your yield, you can have a look at ad location. You can see what it's doing for your site. When people see just how much money certain locations are making, they often change their mind. So I would exercise caution in making decisions based off subjectivity, because we're a testing platform, and if the benefits outweigh the personal element here, I think I wouldn't do it. It's what I'm trying to say. What do you think, Laura?
Yeah, I couldn't have put it better myself. I was trying to think of anything to add on to that, but there's nothing. You've hit the nail on the head there. Completely agree. Test it and see if it's working. Even just for 5% of your users, then it's worth keeping on, because it's not going to show to the users it's not beneficial for. So it's not an either or here. It's a personalization aspect. So,
Laura, how is user experience measured?
So that's a good question. It's one that's very broad, so I'm going to tackle it how I think it's been asked. So user experience at Ezoic is measured by sort of, if you like, profiling individuals, profiling users into a browser profile, if you like. That made no sense. Let me rephrase that. It's basically like looking at how a particular user behaves on a site at any given time, whatever parameters they have set up on the site, how they're using it. And then Ezoic system buckets this user into a user profile. So let me give you an example of a user profile. Would be, let's say, Paul right now. He's based in London, UK. He is on a desktop computer. He's connected to a 3G connection, connected via Wi-Fi connection. As Paul mentioned before, it's cloudy and overcast outside. This is Paul. This is his browsing profile. Then let's say
Cloudy and grey.
Cloudy and grey. Yes. Then let's say we have another browsing profile, which may be somebody who's based in California, who is on a mobile with a 3G connection, who's between the ages of 18 to 24, and that's a browsing profile as well. And then Ezoic uses these profiles to determine experiences targeted to these profiles. And that's how Ezoic calculates user experience metrics. And that's exactly how we adapt on a per user basis. I hope that I've answered the question how you wanted me to. Please do comment if you needed further information on that.
It's great. I think that's covered. If not, please ask another question, and we'll make sure that we clarify there. Will changing the placeholder setup, adding a new one or deleting, have an impact on the tests? So the answer to this one is yes. If you introduce a new variable into any experiment, it's going to have an impact on the outcome. So if you suddenly add 4 or 5 more placeholders, you're introducing 4 or 5 potential more locations at a base level to be tested. But then think on top of that, there's also the interaction with all the other existing locations that can be that could be tested. That we have somewhere, and I'll have a look for it whilst we're answering the next question, a graph that used to explain the different number of combinations based on the number of placeholders that you had. So say you have 10 placeholders, this is the number of potential combinations that you can expect if ad sizes are turned on. And the answer is yes, it will have an impact on the testing. But it's also worth saying, whilst we're on the subject of that Ezoic continuously tests. It doesn't say, right, we've done it. This is the perfect setup and we don't need to do anything in the future. We always look to be testing to make sure that the way that the system is set up, it works best for the users. People don't use the internet the same way they used it 2 years ago. I think last year showed that, browser habits fundamentally shifted during the pandemic. And by using Ezoic, our publishers were with a system that was able to adapt to those changes. So yes, changing anything in the placeholder setup will have an impact on the test, but the more you add, the more potential locations, the greater the opportunity that we have to find the right combination for the right user. The next question, shed some light on video placeholder for the publishers who have never used it. That's a good question. This isn't specifically, and I'm going to share a link in the chat, isn't specifically about the extension, but I a few months ago recorded a video on our video player, which I've just shared in the chat. And also, I think that moving forward through this year, we have some more announcements regarding the video player, so it will get a bit more visibility. So hopefully it becomes more of a staple that's used. But thank you for bringing up the video player. It's a really great tool, and the more people that use it will see the benefit. What are the factors that qualify for premium ads? So premium is, for those that don't know, it's an additional service that we offer at Ezoic. Normally, publishers who are invited to premium have been with us for a couple of months. There's a whole host of different factors that we look at. So, traffic stability, you name it, the different metrics that Laura mentioned earlier, they're all things that we take into consideration. And we have a team that sort of address all of these different issues. And, if they feel they're going to be a right fit for the plan, that's when you're invited. If you're interested, but haven't been invited, if you go to the monetization tab on your desktop, on your dashboard, and hover over where it says premium ads, there's a little question mark. If you click on that, you can register your interest, and that sends a message through to our premium team, and they'll sort of take note of your interest. But like I said, there's lots of different metrics that we look at and take it from there. So sorry to be mysterious, but it's one of those things where we have our qualifying criteria and we make judgments assessed on that. Next question. In the future, are you going to introduce pop-ups, sidebar, native, anchor ads? What should be done when ads overlap? So we have native and anchor ads already. Pop-up, we have interstitials. So in the, when users are browsing around the site, there is the opportunity for those sort of style pop-ups to sort of appear in between page clicks. When it comes to just straight pop-up ads, what we hope that we do is we take into consideration the balance between user experience and serving ads. And I feel that with pop-ups, we're probably more leaning towards the ad experience rather than the user experience side of things, which doesn't really sit well with what we're trying to achieve, which is that true balance. If the industry and the whole ecosystem shifted to everyone accepting pop-up ads, I'm sure it's something that we would incorporate. But I don't think that's going to happen, because I don't know anyone who goes to a website and says, great, a pop-up ad. So I can't see it being something that people are willing to accept in the general browsing experience. So we have in the dashboard, if you haven't seen, if you go to monetization, there's a section called advanced settings, and you can go in there and you can toggle beta style ads. So as and when we're testing new styles, they'll automatically be enabled on your site. So yeah, as and when new features are introduced and rolled out by Google, obviously we're a Google certified publishing partner. We work closely with them. We're invited to test these things. So any new developments in the industry when it comes to these new ad formats, we're on top of. And if we find them to work, then we'll roll them out. if we see it being too far in balance, driving people away from the site, ultimately long term, that's no good. It might make money for a couple of weeks, but ultimately, as I said, no one really wants to go to a site that's got pop-ups on. The next part of that question is what should be done when ads overlap? So Laura, what are your thoughts about how to tackle overlapping ads?
So whether it's ads overlapping content or ads overlapping other ads, obviously this is in both cases a Google policy violation. So that should not be happening. If that is happening on your site, I would recommend that you, I don't know what your site is, but I would recommend reaching out to your Ezoic rep or Ezoic support team, support.ezoic.com, opening a ticket. We'll be able to help you get that rectified. The system does require you to sort of look, of a live version of your site once you've done the setup, just to make sure to see if there's any, it may be a case that a larger size has been accidentally clicked that shouldn't be there, in which case we can disable the larger size that doesn't fit in that location. But yeah, something definitely needs to be done about it. We can fix that. It's an easy fix, so don't worry too much. But yeah, not recommending ads overlapping content or other ads, because you will get in trouble from Google. So yeah, reach out to your Ezoic rep and be able to get that sorted for you.
Yeah, we also have another feature, which is we can enable minimum sizing. So like, say for example, you're viewing your site on you've got like a 24-inch, 26-inch nice big display, versus someone viewing it on a laptop like myself. We can ensure that for the larger screen sizes, those ads are enabled. For smaller ones, they're not. And again, that's part of the personalization that Ezoic can do. We can sort of cater to different devices, because someone who's using, a 36-inch curved monitor is probably going to interact with the internet differently to someone who is on a small Chromebook. So yes, we can help get that resolved.
That's a really good point, Paul, actually. The fact that, as we went through, that's the perfect example of, as I said, of how quickly this industry changes. A curved monitor was not here, it was a more recent thing. So what's going to be next? And Ezoic will adapt to that accordingly, as will the advertising industry. So it's a really, really good example of exactly how we can customize everything for you guys as well.
Next question. Does hard coding the placeholders have any benefit over the Chrome plugin? With the Chrome plugin, when you're attaching placeholders, you attach them to the divs on the page, and that generally works fine if nothing changes. However, if you were to go in and update your theme, what would happen is those placeholders that were attached to the divs that were part of the theme would be removed, thus removing the placeholders. If you go in and hard code them into the page, there's a benefit there because they wouldn't be removed when changing your theme. So in that sense, yes. But for ease of setup and ease of use, the Chrome extension is a fantastic tool that we're continuing to develop and work on to make sure that it's fit for purpose moving forward. Do you have any thoughts there, Laura?
Yeah, no, I was going to say the same thing, and also it's really comes down to as well preference as well. Some publishers don't have the the technical expertise to hard code. Some people prefer the being able to use the Chrome extension. Other publishers prefer to hard code it. So it's again, it's another preference that Ezoic offers. But yeah, as Paul said, he's outlined the key benefits there for you.
Also, when it comes to the placeholders, keep an eye out for Ezoic Customer Week, which is in a couple of weeks, where there will be some announcements regarding the way that we use, or the way that placeholders can be added to the page. So is it okay to use Ezoic with AdSense at the same time? Yes, absolutely. On the same blog? Yes, it's fine. What I would recommend doing is going and linking your AdSense account via the mediation tab under monetization. And then what happens is that your AdSense is then incorporated into the real-time bidding process. And what our system will do is it will have a look at, which offers the best value. Is it this CPC ad from AdSense, or is it this display ad from Ad Exchange? Okay, this time for this user, the AdSense ad is the better option. We serve that. The money goes straight through as it is doing currently to your AdSense account. So that's the best way of doing it. If you have ads that aren't incorporated into the system running on the page in conjunction with Ezoic, it can lead to poor performance because the system doesn't recognize that users are clicking on an ad. So I would go away and I would look at that. conscious we've only got 1 minute left, and I did actually want to ask you just a quick question to finish with, Laura, if that's okay.
Go for it.
Sorry to put you on the spot. But I was just going to ask you, like, so what would you say is the most common misconception when it comes to Ezoic that you find that you have to deal with on a regular basis?
Oh, it's a difficult one. If I had to name one, I'm going to go through a couple that I'm quickly thinking of, and that would be that Ezoic is purely a monetization platform. It's not. It's a website management platform. Monetization is one of our biggest benefits, absolutely, but it's going to help guide your content strategy and manage your site long term. And the other misconception is Ezoic as an ad network, and that question there is just the perfect example of that. Is can you use AdSense with Ezoic? Absolutely. Ezoic's not its own ad network. We will give you, work with thousands of ad networks through the ad exchange. AdSense is a benefit to be competing on your site. So Ezoic is an ad technology platform rather than an ad network. That would be some of the common misconceptions, as well as I have to give up all my control because I'm connecting via name servers or Cloudflare. As I've said, you actually will get more control over your site after connecting with Ezoic than you've ever had before. So those would be my top 3 misconceptions. Not an ad network. You actually get more control. And what was the other conception I said? The misconception I said, the first one. It's gone from me already.
It's fine. It's recorded. We can watch it
Go
back.
back.
It's there. It's there. That's all that's important. So it's just past 1, but there's one last question, which Barry's asked. So we'll answer that, and then I think that we're going to bring the session to a close. So
yeah.
Ezoic recommends turning off AMP to improve my speed. What are the considerations to run AMP or not to run AMP? So AMP used to offer an advantage when it came to Google search carousel. That was its major advantage. We know that AMP pages don't monetize as well. The framework itself has become more bloated over time. So from a speed perspective, you've kind of lost out on that advantage. It's no faster. It monetizes worse. And as of the Google Core update in June, there's no AMP pages are now not required to be part of the news search carousel, which was the only major selling point to continue to run AMP pages. So it's not as fast or no quicker. It monetizes worse, and there's no competitive search advantage. I would say that if you're considering running AMP as a framework or converting your site, I would say not to. Speaking with Google on a frequent basis, I do. A few years ago, AMP was front and center of everything they did. Not anymore. I think that gives you an indication of where it's going, and the fact they've dropped that requirement shows it's not quite the force it once was. I'm just going to pull up an article very quickly and send in the chat to read about AMP, because it does a very good job of outlining why not to use AMP. Hang on 1 second. I'm terrible at multitasking, so I apologize. It's in the chat now. Barry, I recommend click on that link and have a read of that article. But yeah, I would say that it doesn't offer you anything that you can't get by optimizing straight mobile pages. And yeah, Core Web Vitals essentially, achieves what AMP was designed to do, which is create a great user experience, serve content fast. But instead of going to a Google domain, you keep users on your own website, which from a publisher perspective is much better than losing those visitors. So yeah, again, this is a whole nother webinar that I could go into on the benefits of mobile web versus AMP, which we don't have time for now. But I just wanted to say a big thank you for everyone for coming today. Thanks for all the questions, thanks for the engagement, and thank you very much, Laura, for the talk.
Yeah, thanks everyone for joining. It was a really, really good one. So hope to do one of these again soon. All right, thanks guys. Have a good Thursday.
Thank you guys. See you later.
Bye.
Bye.